Good afternoon, Santa Clarita, and everyone streaming in from around the world. You're listening to a special broadcast today on grief and loss. My name is Sharon Brubaker, and I'm a certified grief recovery specialist. I am not flying solo today. My co-host, Alex Urbina, transformational coach, is back from his vacation and with us today.
Thanks for having me back.
Yay! I'm so glad you're back. I was freaking out last week, so I'm glad you're back.
You're doing great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, so real quick, if you're listening to this broadcast, there's a high probability that your heart is broken. It could be from a recent loss or from something long ago. I'm not going to tell you how that feels because you already know, but at best I can tell you I know what it felt like when my broken heart occurred. It's what you and I talk about a lot. And we've been reminded at the beginning of this year about everyone that had a broken heart from Vegas. You and I have been recently talking about that and just really trying to keep that story going because so many of them were from Santa Clarita, right? And I often wonder, I check in on them all the time just to see how they're doing. I know I see a lot of the posts that they're having nightmares and loud noises are still freaking them out. And I just hope that I can be an inspiration to everyone from Vegas. If you're out there listening, Alex and I are here for you. We really want to be a resource for you. But we're going to talk through grief and some myths about grief today and what can possibly help you through it. Real quick, I just want to remind everybody we are Facebook Live, so give us some love on that Facebook Live. Feel free to put some questions on there, and we'll get those answered for you today. Alex, I guess we should open up with, let's talk about what some of the people from Vegas could have thought about going into the new year. I was thinking about that a lot. Like, it's probably sort of scary going into the new year thinking that something really deep happened to me.
Yeah, I think that you probably had, different groups of people that were having different kinds of experiences.
Right.
And some of them could have already been on the back end of the healing process,
right,
to where they're kind of like, all right, I can't wait to wrap this year up and put it behind me. Almost like a pivotal moment or a symbolic moment to say, okay, I'm going to move on to 2018 and start moving forward and getting on with my life again. And then some of them could still kind of be lingering. So I think it depends on where they're at,
right,
in their process.
And I thought one of the experiences that I was having for myself personally is I had a really close friend of mine that passed away in June. And going into the new year, even though I feel complete in my relationship with her, I felt almost sad, like I was leaving that part behind. Like I was really having to go into 2018 without her and that reality. I wonder if some of the people from Vegas could be having that sort of a feeling of leaving part of their identity behind or some of their security or trust, or a feeling of well-being.
Yeah, because we talked about one show about the possibility that some of them could have created a new identity called
right,
survivor of the
right,
Las Vegas shooting. And when that becomes now a part of your identity, to actually transition yourself away from that and move on is almost like a loss or a death or a letting
absolutely,
go. It's a surrendering. I love the word you use where you call it completing. I complete this relationship that I had called tragedy or whatever it is. But to wrap your mind around a solid, belief system that you adopt and say, look, I'm letting this go because I get to figure out how to reinvent myself.
Right.
I think that, being a change agent, deciding that your life is going to constantly be changing and evolving, and that's just what I'm going to do with my life, is learn how to embrace and accept change, is going to really prepare you to go really from moment to moment, from event to event, from loss and tragedy to success and to love, and you're going to learn how to jump through all of them and really not be attached to any of them, even the good ones.
Right.
Learn how to be unattached to the things that happen to me or happen with me or as I'm a part of them, and learn how to move through life flawlessly.
And that's part of like being, what we talk about in grief recovery is being in your present moment and having to be conscious to be in your present moment, right? So if I'm getting a moment where I'm sad or I'm feeling insecure, I have to go from that thought, okay, what is this thought that's bringing me here, and go into my present moment. Okay, I'm driving right now. I need to pay attention to this. I need to move on from that.
Absolutely, yeah. Being present in you giving yourself permission to be here now in this present moment allows you to constantly move from event to event.
Right.
It's helping you be here in this moment, co-creating this conversation with you.
Right.
Doesn't allow me to be holding on to any of my fears or anything from my past. It gives me permission just to be here now, creating something valuable.
Right, right. I met with a lady who was in Vegas, and we were talking. She was sharing me her fears that have now gone into other areas of her life. So, for example, she's fearful for her kids, that something might happen to her kids. Like she said, everywhere she goes, she's thinking about that. And so I was actually discussing with her the survivor mentality, and how I find that a lot of people who've gone through a tragedy can have this survivor mentality, which is, I think in a way, it's their coping mechanism, and it's what is making them safe, and they need that for that moment. And it was really kind of cute because she's like, no, that's not me at all. And then she shows me this big tattoo that she has on her wrist, and it was really cute. But I think that we can take the fears from that one area and we can start assigning them to other areas in our life. So she's very fearful that something will happen to her children, that they're going to go somewhere. However, which is really kind of interesting, is she's putting herself in a lot of big crowds and going to events to help herself. But she has this underlying fear that she's carrying on with her.
Yeah, a lot of times when people go through tragic events like that, you know, the one thing that they like to do is look at themselves and look at what happened and say, what did I learn from this?
Right.
And it's very easy to take the learning process and take the thing that they learned from it and learn how to take that learning process and then implement it all across the board in my life.
Right.
The distinction that you want to be clear about is I don't want to take the fear that I learned how to be more fearful in more situations. You want to learn how to take the awareness into all situations. So instead of going into a new venue or a new event or a new scenario and bringing that I learned how to be afraid into that new event, you want to bring in, no, I have a new awareness now. So now I'm just highly observant, I'm highly aware, and I'm noticing, I'm forethinking, but you're forethinking from a place of security rather than from a place of fear.
Right.
So the trick is can I learn from what happened in Vegas and have gone through that experience and take that awareness with me everywhere I go, but leave the fear behind? Because if you bring the fear with you, then now you're going to be in an unhealthy context, and that fear can go down a rabbit hole that you can get lost in, and it's going to be an unhealthy context.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. One of the things that we just talked about circling back is you talked about how I say completing that relationship. One of the reasons in grief recovery that we use the word completing is because the word closure can be so painful when associated with a death. I think I've shared this with you in the past, that if someone had told me that I had to get closure, which they did, it did happen to me with Austin, after Austin died, that's so final. It's so right there. But completing, it's almost like we're walking alongside it, right? It's almost like this is a relationship I definitely had. I was in Vegas. My thought would be, your experience there was you had a relationship with it from the day you got there. You were partying, you're having fun, your friends are there, your family are there. And then this tragedy happens. And the fear and all of that's associated with it, you can almost walk the steps. You could absolutely walk the steps as it's a relationship from beginning to end to completing that, all the parts that I didn't like about it, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and all of that in that process, which would be really cool.
Yeah, and then I want to really highlight the things that you've taught me in this whole process, and that's that grief is really about loss.
Yes.
And I just, even in my own reflection, looking back at how much I learned about how much loss I have on a daily basis.
Right.
We literally are letting go of everything. Like I have to let go of the breakfast I had this morning.
Yes.
I have to let go of, a smile that I made, and a connection I had at the coffee shop with the woman this morning. Or, it's like we're having these experiences and then we're engaging and then we're disengaging.
Right.
So we're literally releasing and surrendering and letting go of our interactions on a daily basis. And so when you talk about how in a tragic event, the grief that we could be experiencing is the loss of something. And when you put a name to it, like the loss of security,
Yes.
it really hits you really hard, because you start to question, like, well, what do you mean by a loss of security? Well, the loss of feeling secure in an event where up until now, there hasn't been anything quite like it before.
Yeah.
You're at a place where you've always felt safe.
Yes.
Whether it's for 10 years or 30 years. For some of us, we've been going to Vegas with our families for over 50, 60 years, and it's always been a fun, safe, secure place for us. Well, now we're in a new world where that security has evaded us. We
Right.
can't hold on to that secure spot anymore. So there's the loss of the security. What are some of the other losses that we deal with when we go through grief or a tragedy like that?
And it's like peeling back the layer of an onion, right? So let's say I just were to do, we were just to go to Las Vegas. What happens is in the homework assignments that I give the client is we do sort of an inventory of our life, right? So we go through that inventory of our life and we kind of write that out. That will sometimes trigger other losses that we've had in the past that could have actually showed up in Vegas. It's really weird how we can put those things together, right? So some of the losses, I think, definitely a loss of safety, loss of security, loss of trust, right? A loss of family, a loss of fun, a loss of just wanting to have fun, which can turn into other things where the client can actually, or the person can actually start using drugs and alcohol to cover up for some of those losses, right? So it's really individual. Grief is unique and individual, and it's unique and individual to each person. You and I could be standing next to each other and go through the same experience, and our grief and our loss would be unique and individual to us.
You know what else I thought of as we're talking? I'm thinking about the loss of innocence.
Yeah.
When I was a young teenager, I remember going out with a couple of friends and a couple of my cousins, and we were out on a Friday night at the local movie theaters, and we're kind of hanging out waiting for our parents to come pick us up. And a group of older teenagers came by and were kind of messing with us, And I remember we got assaulted by this group, minding our own business,
Right.
just being really, innocent and naive and laughing, but not having the street smarts to be aware and reading the signs and all that kind of
Right.
stuff. And we got attacked. And so I thought of, that loss of trust
Yes.
in my community.
Yeah.
The loss of trust in humanity,
Yes.
in my fellow partners, my other teenagers that appeared to be fun and making jokes, and we were laughing, not realizing that they were really there to prey on us, to either attack us and steal our things from us and those kinds of things. So it was definitely a loss of my innocence that night.
Yes.
And so I think of how that might have hardened me, right? Where now I don't trust as
Yes.
much, and I don't let my wall come down, and I'm not the quickest naive person to go, hey, how are you, and
Right.
welcome. And so now there's a hardening inside of me, especially as a man. And I think to myself, how many people lost that innocence as they were in Vegas and had to experience the terror that was rained upon them that night. And just in humanity, they lost the trust of humanity, that people are good, and they got a real wake-up call that it just takes one bad apple to
Right.
ruin it for everyone else.
What about the person that had that same experience when they were 14 years old, and now they go to Vegas? They experience the loss in Vegas, the loss of trust, the loss of safety. Now they have everything is bad, I can't go out. And so now I have my experience from when I was 14 years old, plus my experience from Vegas. Now I'm out in the world trying to, and it might not just be Vegas, it could have been anywhere, trying to function, but I'm bringing this anger and this hurt and this pain with me everywhere I go.
Oh, that happens all the time.
It happens all the time.
We collect evidence, right, as we move through not trusting people.
Right.
And then as part of us, we actually create the same not trusting people, right?
Right.
And we collect evidence that the world isn't safe, and
Yes.
I can't trust anybody. And then before you know it, we become closed, shut down, robotic, numb, disconnected people that are hiding out because we're afraid to open ourselves up and give our heart away again.
And that goes along with, Alex, that one of the myths about grief and loss is that time will heal. How many times have you heard, just give it time?
All the time.
Just give it time.
No, really.
It is all the time.
And
it is.
And I think maybe someone created a bumper sticker and then it just went around in the 70s or the 80s.
And we believe it.
And it just becomes now something that's automatic. When we're an automatic pilot and unconscious and we don't know what to say, we default to, well, time will heal.
Right. And we go to just give it time. You'll feel better in time. It just takes time. Your heart will start to feel better. But we know for a fact how much time? 10, 20, 30 years? It doesn't start to feel better. And we carry that pain with us.
And that's because time doesn't heal.
It does not.
Time is just the space
Yes.
allotted for you to decide that you want to heal yourself.
Yes.
And it's through your own choosing to heal yourself and the actions that you take and moving
100%.
yourself forward is the healing that needs to happen inside that time.
Absolutely. It's the action within time that makes a difference. So, one, making the decision, and two, admitting that there's something wrong or broken. Admitting that my heart is really broken. Because sometimes people won't come because they don't believe that they're, one, actually grieving, or they need to be transformed, or that there's something from their past that's still bothering them, right?
Well, that's the ego. You know, our ego is very committed to not wanting to recognize that I need support.
Yeah.
I need help. And so what it does, it convinces us that I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'll figure it out. I'll be fine.
Yeah.
And we come up with these cliche sayings to justify that everything's going to be okay, knowing deep down inside that empty hole inside of me,
Right.
or that loneliness, or that rainy day,
Yeah.
it keeps coming week after week. It might stretch itself, a little bit farther every month or whatever, but it's still there and it's still lingering and it still affects me and it still hits me. And it's because, I hate to say it, but at a certain point you haven't taken it on head on.
Yes, exactly. And we know for a fact that grief and loss is cumulative, and it's cumulatively negative. So, for example, when I was 14 years old and I'm at the movie theater and I have a bad experience, and then when I'm 16 years old and I'm at school and a kid knocks me down, so I've got my 14-year-old experience, my 16-year-old experience, my 18-year-old experience, and it just keeps adding and it just keeps growing, and it becomes this big ball of fire right inside of us.
And then when the 40-year-old experience happens, then it's almost like they all cumulatively come up at the same time.
At the same time, exactly. And then how am I going to deal with this blob that I've just created within myself?
Well, you're not going to deal with it because you have a lifetime of just stuffing it and avoiding it. You became now a professional avoider.
A professional avoider.
You're just going to keep avoiding it because that's what's worked for you up until now. And that's why I'm so in awe of the people that are really courageous enough to say, you know what, enough is enough.
Exactly.
I'm tired of avoiding it. I want to dive head on into it. And the ones that actually decide or give themselves permission to dive in like that, it's so awe-inspiring to see them have the huge breakthrough and the cathartic release and the surrendering. You actually, in some of their eyes, you can see the light that's glimmering back in the light.
You can see the change in their face.
Absolutely.
The change in their face.
And their posture and the way they walk, everything about them, their whole demeanor shifts because they dug down deep and found enough courage to say, I'm going to get rigorously committed to dealing with all of the grief that I have, even the stuff I don't know that I don't know.
Right.
And that's why it's cool to have professionals like you that can walk them through that process to even open up the possibility that there's things that you don't know that you don't know.
That you don't know. Absolutely, for sure. So one of the things that happens when we start to peel back that onion, when we start to peel back that layer, sometimes there's a little surprise in there. And when you're talking about the thing that you don't know, and sometimes they can't even get to the center of it because they literally don't know what it is. So when we come back from our break, we'll talk a little bit more about what's in the center of that onion.
Oh, you're a teaser.
And how the myths help us get there. Thank you.
Santa Clarita's new Friday night happening place is Vine's Restaurant and Bar at the Hyatt Valencia.
Vine's Restaurant rocks.
Featuring their prime rib buffet dinner.
Oh man, awesome buffet.
Prime rib, the best.
Our Friday feast.
Tomato basil soup, homemade.
Shrimp and Caesar salad.
Vine's Restaurant Friday night prime rib buffet, only $29.50.
The ultimate date night.
Make your Friday date night at Vine's Restaurant and keep every day of your week happy at the Vine's Lounge and Patio Happy Hour, 4 to 7 p.m. daily, featuring $5 appetizers and drinks.
Daily Imprints is the premier one-stop shop for custom embroidery, screen printing, and promotional products in the Santa Clarita Valley. Owners Joe and Dana have provided KHTS with quality embroidered company shirts for over 3 years. If it's new business cards or promotional products you need to enhance your image, Daily Imprints is the choice for you. Located on Lyons Avenue, stop by or call today, 661-678-0508.
It isn't often when we see a company launch in Santa Clarita and become an international sensation. In 2010, Jen Gerard founded Whitening Lightning in her Valencia kitchen. Now it's a booming international sensation. Leading actresses and international models have switched to Whitening Lightning to avoid the mess, hassle, and sensitivity of other products. Whitening Lightning's simple Dial a Smile kit will dramatically turn your teeth whiter in just 20 minutes. Rediscover how white your teeth can look. Visit whiteninglightning.com. whiteninglightning.com.
Drugs or alcohol abuse can tear a family apart. In Santa Clarita, just like everywhere else, it's an epidemic. The Way Out Recovery is here to help. Call them now at 296-4444 or visit them on the web at thewayoutrocoveryscv.com. The Way Out offers outpatient treatment for adolescents, adults, and family members. The Way Out is compassionate, caring, professional, and confidential. You and your family don't have to suffer any longer. Call the Way Out Recovery now, 296-4444, or visit thewayoutrocoveryscv.com and make an appointment. Asking for help is the first step.
Santa Clarita's hometown station, KHTS.
Hey everybody, welcome back. This is Sharon Brubaker. I'm a certified grief recovery specialist, and I have my co-host here, Alex Urbina, and he's a transformational life coach. And I just love sitting in here talking about grief and loss with you, which is my favorite subject in the whole world, because we were talking about how it is so amazing to walk somebody through a transformation of a broken heart or pain that they've had stuck in their heart for years, and wherein they work with you and I and just seeing the transformation with them. But just going back a little bit, we were talking about the layer of the onion, right? So a lot of times I'm working with a client, we pick one area to start working on that may be a loss. Now, keeping in mind, we can grieve the loss of anyone that is living or deceased. The person does not have to be deceased. It can be a divorce. We know for a fact there are 40 known losses that a person can grieve over a lifetime.
I can't wait for that show.
It's going to be amazing.
Yeah, because in my mind I can only think of probably 7.
Right.
But to get to 40 would really open my eyes to realize how I take for granted that things are coming and going, and I don't get to complete all of them. So that would be a great eye-opening for me as well. And it's
really kind of cool because sometimes the grief or loss can be happening in your current life. This is what I'm talking about with the onion. Like, I'm certain I may not be getting along with someone in my life, but it goes back to something in their childhood, right? And sometimes we have to just sit and talk through what's in the center of that onion. And I just will sit with someone and just throw out different events and emotions and meaning, and they need to tell me whether that fits for them or not. Because we know for a fact that anything that's attached to the heart and really pulls at the heart is what we call it a heartstring. And that's an area that needs to be worked on.
Something is tugging at your heartstring.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I do this a lot too in my coaching sessions, where I'll have clients that my job is to help them get clear about what's at the crux of
Yeah.
their issue, like what's
Yeah.
really going on.
Yeah.
And if I can peel that, and I like the metaphor, peeling the layer
Yeah.
of the onion back. And as you're peeling, you're helping them peel that onion. And I might say to them, have you ever considered that there's something with you and being abandoned?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you'll see their eyeballs get really
Yeah.
big and they'll get quiet. And that's how you know you either hit it
Yeah.
or you're close to it. And then as a professional, when you spot that, that's when you want to ask them, what's that about?
Right.
And they go, what do you mean? And they're like, well, your facial expressions change. What's it? Talk to me about being abandoned. And then all of a sudden, when you
Yes.
give them that permission, you ask them that question, you realize that all the things that are tied, all their
Yes.
dysfunctions are tied to feeling abandoned. And then the more they go into it, you never realize that some of us, when we were younger, we were abandoned by people that we
Yes.
counted on, that we trusted,
Yeah.
that were supposed to be with us forever and made commitments and vows that they would always be there for us. Like having a father that, broke out of the marriage
Yeah.
or left us, or, there's certain things that we don't realize that are tied to our childhood.
Yes.
Right?
Wherever you go, there you are. That's what I tell
Yeah,
people all
for
the time.
sure.
So whatever
Yeah.
you had from 30 years ago, you brought it into
Yeah.
today, right? Sometimes also what happens in that onion as we're peeling it back, they are convinced that the center is this one thing. I really miss my boyfriend's grandpa, and I've been going to his grave, and I'm just like, that just doesn't even make sense. Let's talk about this a little bit. So how long did you know him? Well, I've known him for 3 months, and then he passed away, and then we just go a little bit deeper. And the reality is, yes, I missed him. He was a really neat guy, and I really enjoyed knowing him. But the center of that onion for me really is my boyfriend and the way we broke up.
I'm glad you brought that up. It just triggered something for me. When my father passed away of cancer, I want to say about 12 years ago, my middle sister dealt with it the way that she dealt with it. And from the outside looking in, and I'm not judging her,
Of course.
but from the outside looking in, it appeared to be that she kind of hid from it. She kind of checked out and didn't allow herself to experience her experiences. So now we're going to fast forward 3 weeks from now. Her mother-in-law just passed away, and she is grieving wholeheartedly. And I remember my mom saying to me just a couple of days ago, she's like, I don't get it. And now it's hitting me that
Yes.
she probably didn't give herself permission to grieve her father.
Yes.
And so now a lot of this is bringing up stuff that she had suppressed and was hiding.
Yeah.
And so now it's cathartically, all coming up in her face right now.
Cumulative and cumulatively negative.
Yeah.
And it's still there. And it will attach to other areas in our life. Last week I did the show on pet loss, where you were gone and on your great vacation and you left me here alone. And it happens a lot with pet loss. Even though we love our pets, right? And they truly are our friend, we see a lot with pet loss where the people just go over the top. I don't want to say wrong or different, but they can attach other losses in their life to their pet. And so sometimes when they come to me and we're handling the pet that they love so much and their companion, because it's pure love with a pet, they
Right.
just love you.
Right.
And so we lost that companionship of that pet.
And it has nothing to do with you feeding them.
Isn't
right?
that right? Maybe it has a little bit to do with that. But then that loss of my dad from 12 years ago will really be in there. And so it is not uncommon for us to find it in that in a situation like that.
Hey, let's talk real quick about one of the myths that kind of baffles me, and that's the one where people say, don't feel bad.
Right.
It's almost like we want to tell people how not to feel, and I'm wondering how much of that is because we're uncomfortable with them feeling what they're feeling. Let's say you're struggling with a loss, and I start noticing your eyes start to water, and if I'm uncomfortable with that, I'm going to pat you in the back and go, it's okay, don't feel bad, and then I'm trying to justify it. How much of that is because I'm not okay with feeling my own feelings or being in the presence of other people feeling sorrowful or hurtful or heartbroken? Why do we say don't feel bad? Why do we tell people that and project it onto people?
I don't know why we do it, but I can tell you a couple of things. One is I don't ever remember anyone telling me not to feel bad, but I can remember people saying, you're still feeling that way? Or is that still bothering you? I think part of it is, number one, what you said, they don't want to see the emotion. We don't want to see the emotion. Number two is they want to fix it. I want to fix it. I need to fix this. Think of a little girl.
I need to make you feel better.
I need to make
in
you feel
my presence.
better, so I need to fix this. So a little girl who may be crying because no one showed up at her birthday party, and Grandpa's saying, "Oh, honey, don't feel that way. Here, have a cookie. Don't feel that way. That feeling is bad. Don't cry. I don't want to see that emotion." And what do you think that little girl's going to do right away? She's going to say, "Okay, feelings are bad. Emotions are bad. I got to stuff them."
That's where the limiting beliefs start.
Yes.
We create limiting beliefs surrounding grief, surrounding loss, surrounding feelings.
Yes.
And then we create that limiting belief. And this is what's powerful is as parents, we don't realize that when we do those things or say those things, a new belief is created.
Yes.
How heartbreaking would it be knowing that your daughter doesn't feel her emotions, and now she's a 30-year-old woman struggling in her relationships with her husband and her kids because she doesn't know how to be affectionate.
Yes.
Because when she was 4 years old, you made a couple statements to her that implied on her end that wasn't okay for her to feel her feelings.
That wasn't okay. And we came here with that ability to do that.
Absolutely.
Even as a little child.
Absolutely.
We could go from joyful to sorrowful in 2 seconds and back to joyful again. We came here with that ability, and that ability is usually taken away from us from society and the things that they say. And one of the main things they say to us is don't feel bad, or don't feel that way, or you don't need to be strong. You don't need to be feeling that way. And we definitely take it on. It's really amazing to me when I have that little girl who comes into my office, and she's a young adult, and she was never allowed to feel anything. And we start taking back her layers of the onion. It's deep, and I almost have to give her permission to go through that grief one layer at a time and tell her, come on, you need to feel this. You need to go through it. We need to walk through this.
I do it too. Giving people permission to feel their feelings and experience their experiences to me is one of the greatest gifts I can give. But you definitely, as a professional, have to evolve to that level.
Yes.
You have to be working with people long enough for you to now go, all right, if you're not going to give permission, what is it going to take for me to give you permission?
Right.
And then you end up doing it one time, and you realize how profound it is for the other person on the receiving end to take your permission and own it as their own, and then cathartically release all this baggage that they've been carrying around for years.
My heart just breaks thinking about people who just have all of this junk just stuck in there, and they literally try to do anything they can to avoid it or not have to deal with it. One of the other myths is keeping busy. Just keep busy. I can't even tell you how many times I've been around people after a recent loss or even immediately after a loss, and they've been told, you got to get back to work, you got to keep busy, keep your mind off of it, which also kind of attaches to don't feel bad, right? Because they go together. And people take that out to heart. And all of the things they do to avoid feeling or actually going in that area and dealing with those emotions because they think that dealing with those emotions are bad or awful. Or maybe I'm going to make you feel bad if I do tap into those emotions.
Isn't it amazing how good we become as human beings to avoid?
Yeah.
We avoid things at all costs.
Yes.
We avoid pain.
Yeah.
We avoid embarrassment.
Right.
We avoid so much. I think there's an addiction, an interpersonal addiction that a lot of us have at avoiding at all costs, no matter what.
Yeah.
And this is how, wars are started.
Yeah.
This is how, destruction happens because of the fear. The fear of apologizing, or the fear of allowing things to happen organically and letting things happen the way that they're supposed to happen. And what I mean by that is, as human beings, we're wired to be emotional.
Right.
We're wired to feel our feelings.
Yes.
And through our feelings, there's what's called a teacher.
Yes.
We're supposed to learn from the things that we're feeling. But how do we learn if we're not giving ourselves permission to feel those feelings and go through that natural, organic process?
And sometimes it's protecting the other person. So I can even imagine not wanting to have a tough conversation with my husband because I know he's going to get upset right? Oh, this is really going to upset him. Maybe I can work this out and not have the conversation and literally talking it through in my head. Yeah, but if he finds out about it, it's going to be much worse and blah, blah, blah. Sometimes it's easier, even though it's tough, just to go there. I posted today, it's better to tell the truth, even if your voice is shaking and even if you're scared, than to not have that conversation and not go there and approach it. But sometimes we have to be taught how to do that. Right? And we have to get some of the pain and hurt out of our heart so that we can have that freedom and learn how to do it. We have to be reprogrammed almost.
Absolutely. I started, as I said the last statement I made, I immediately started thinking about all the people that are going to send me emails saying, what could I possibly learn from this pain in my heart?
Yeah.
And the response I want to say is, can you be open to the possibility that pain from that loss is there to teach you that you're a loving being.
Yeah.
That pain is there to remind you that you're compassionate and caring and that you're a vulnerable, loving human being. And maybe that's what we're supposed to learn and be reminded of.
Right.
And so just because in your mind it doesn't make sense, it doesn't mean that there's not, that our feelings and our emotions aren't there to teach us. But you got to be willing and open to learn them as well. You can't be closed-minded. You got to be open to possibilities.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just regurgitating the same information over and over again and convincing yourself into the box that you're stuck in.
Yeah.
Rather than thinking outside the box and being open to new ideas and new concepts so that you can keep growing.
Alex, we're all going to experience grief and loss at some point in our life.
I think we are. It's I can't imagine a human being walking on this planet that hasn't experienced it unless they just never give their heart to anybody.
Or they don't tell the truth to themselves.
Living in this illusion that things don't hurt them, that they never were attached to anybody, that they don't care.
Right.
How can you, if you're a loving, caring being, even if it was a brief moment in time from age 4 to 7, or if there was just a moment that you loved and cared about people, you're gonna experience loss. You're gonna experience grief. It's gonna hurt.
Yes.
The question is am I going to allow the pain shut me down from feeling the love and the love I have for other people for the rest of my life? Because that's what I'm starting to notice, especially in the teen trainings.
Right.
What's happening is young people a little bit at a time are creating this belief that I don't want to feel hurt anymore.
Yes.
And so what they're doing is that belief system is starting to shut down their emotions. Their walls are coming up.
Right.
They're being desensitized. And they're numbing themselves out. There's no more vulnerability.
Right.
The Generation X and especially Generation I, there's no vulnerability in any of these kids anymore.
Right.
Because they're so numbed out.
Right.
Their walls are up. They're full. We got full robots now in today's world. And so, to me, I'm making a plea to the parents to say, let's start teaching our kids how to feel their feelings, to feel their emotions more.
Right. And that's exactly what I was getting to, is that we have a choice. We can go in kicking or screaming, or we can learn how to do it properly and gently. I don't even want to say easy because it's not easy. It's tough to go through it. It's absolutely tough to go through it. And if I'm telling the truth, it is like walking through a dark tunnel. It is absolutely like you walk in this dark tunnel and you don't know how to get to the other side. And it is painful. But there are teachers that have gone before you that know how to do it and can help guide you through that.
And what they do is when they do go through it and it is painful, what they learn how to do is create a new relationship with the pain.
Yes.
So now pain isn't a bad thing anymore.
Yeah.
Pain isn't a horrible experience.
Right.
Pain isn't daunting. Pain isn't, the end of my life and the end of the world. Pain is just pain.
Pain it is, yeah.
And then when you create a new relationship, like pain equals love.
Right.
Oh, you mean when I'm feeling the pain, that means that I love that person?
Yes.
Right? Isn't that what happens when we lose a loved one, like our mom passes away or our pet or somebody, and that we have that internal pain in our heart? It feels like someone's squeezing our lungs or squeezing our heart. that pain is the love that you have for that person.
It's absolutely the love you have for that person. And it can also be, in many cases, the communication that you didn't get to have. So what if you wrecked mom's car, right? And she told you not to take the car out, and you wrecked mom's car, and then mom becomes really sick the next week. And then mom, for whatever reason, God willing, she passes away. I didn't get to apologize for wrecking that car.
This is where the regrets come in, right?
That's where the apologies and forgives and the telling the truth about ourselves. And love is the product of truthful communication, being able to truthfully communicate with
That's
mom.
on the front end.
That's on the front end. But
If you miss that opportunity and
Yes.
the window's gone and the person's passed, now
Yes.
you're living with regrets.
You're living with regrets.
And I had a great example of that. The night that my dad got called into the hospital, was rushed to the hospital, and I got that phone call that he has stage 4 cancer, and we needed to make our way to the hospital right away. We dropped everything. I remember praying to God, saying, give me another hour with him.
Right.
And it was so that I could apologize for some withholdings that I had.
Right.
So when you say that, it really resonates with me that had I not gotten that opportunity to get there and say, hey, Dad, forgive me for, or hey, I'm so sorry for, I needed to make amends because had he had passed without me doing that, then I had to live with that guilt and that resentment if I chose to, right? Because it's a choice. But unconsciously, I could have allowed that guilt and that resentment to haunt me for the rest of my life because I didn't get the opportunity or have the courage to go clean those things up prior to him passing.
Right. Anything that we wish was better, different, or more, anything that we needed to say to our loved one that is just left unsaid, that last communication or anything we need to tell them. You actually grieved with your dad in real time. When you go to your dad and you have that conversation, you are actually grieving with him in real time. But a lot of people don't get that.
And the only reason why that was possible was because at an early age, I embarked on this journey of consciousness, and I gave myself permission to learn and discover the courage to not care about what people think about me, and allowed me to learn how to express my feelings and my emotions in the moment, like you said, in real time.
Yeah.
Had I not had that awakening, I'd still be the same unconscious, arrogant, stubborn guy that would still, in those moments, hold on to that and still not have the courage to say something.
Right.
But because of that awakening, I realized that what was more important to me was to clean this up so that I can set myself free and set him free and allow myself to be who he needs me to be for however much time he had still to deal with what he was dealing with.
And also the thing that's really important is that recovery is an inside job. What you did there was really for you. It really was for you. It probably put Dad at ease. I definitely believe that. But you needed to settle what was in your heart that was incomplete in your heart. And you were able to complete
And
in
he
real
was such
time.
an amazing man. I think he knew that. And he embraced it like a champion. And it was like, son,
beautiful.
you didn't need that, but he took it because he knew that how important it was to me. Yeah. All right, we're going to go on a break. Stay tuned for more of this healing, how to move through your grief in a powerful way, right here on your hometown station, KHTS.
Remember when Mom would bake cookies and you'd sneak some raw cookie dough? Raw cookie dough is the best. And now you can get safe-to-eat raw cookie dough at Delicious Sweets and Treats at the Westfield Town Center Mall. Delicious Sweets and Treats raw cookie dough comes in several flavors like birthday cake, sugar cookie, unicorn, and everyone's favorite, chocolate chip. Not into the raw stuff? No worries. You can also get freshly baked cookies or buy the dough to bake yourself. Delicious Sweets and Treats near JCPenney's in the mall.
Cancer is unpredictable. You need a cancer center that's several steps ahead. For over a century, City of Hope has been advancing science that saves lives. From 4 of the top cancer-fighting drugs to stem cell transplants with unparalleled survival rates. Rather than just heal the body, City of Hope helps you re-become the person you were before cancer. City of Hope has 15 locations throughout Los Angeles. For the location nearest you, visit cityofhope.org.
Do you know how much your business is worth? Do you plan on leaving it to a family member or even selling it? Do you know what will happen to it when you're gone?
At Thrivent Financial, Jeff and Melanie Meyer do more than help you manage your finances. They guide you through a plan for the future that includes an objective third-party valuation of your business. Take the first step. Call Jeff and Melanie Meyer at 661-799-0230. That's Jeff and Melanie Meyer at 661-799-0230.
Do you like to rock across Africa?
Then the wait is over.
Africa Rocks! Africa's Greatest Hits is now available at the San Diego Zoo! And who could forget 99 red baboons?
Or the African crested porcupine smash hit, I Got Quills to Pay the Bills! Hey, don't get too close.
And the hits keep on coming.
Africa Rocks has all your favorites from 6 different African habitats.
Hungry like a leopard.
Ibex is back.
Harder, better, Fossa stronger.
And a new track from Kendrick Lamar.
Now, Larry.
Yes, Chuck?
A collection of this magnitude, I'd fly to Africa.
Well, don't pack your bags, friend. Africa Rocks is only available right here at the San Diego Zoo.
Wow, that really does rock.
No, it Africa Rocks.
Welcome to Africa Rocks. Experience 6 different African habitats, including our first ever aquatic enclosure with African penguins. Only at the San Diego Zoo.
KHTS.
Hey everybody, welcome back. You're listening to your hometown station, KHTS. My name is Sharon Brubaker, and I'm a certified grief recovery specialist with my co-host, Alex Urbina, a transformational coach. And I love how our two programs mirror each other, really looking at the heart of someone that's broken and how we get them to completion through 2 different processes. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah, we've been talking about the myths of grieving, and we've gone over a few of them. There's one that I wanted to make sure we didn't leave out, and that's to be strong and to be strong for others. And before I ask you the question about that, I'm thinking about, my dad was dealing with cancer. There was definitely a part of me that said I needed to be strong for him, but it wasn't about feeling my emotions.
Yeah.
For me, being strong to him meant that I was allowing myself to feel my emotions in front of him, such that it allowed him to feel safe enough to feel his in front of me. But when people say, I got to be strong for the other person, what's that about? Why do we do that?
I can tell you my story, and my story is I'm definitely a be strong person, 100%. I think the sister to be strong is keep busy. And I think they go hand in hand together, and I experience it 100%. I felt when Austin died, because I was 10 years older than Erica, who was my sister, I felt that I needed to be strong for her because she was going to be weak or tired or grieving. And that it would be my job to carry her through this, carry her over the bridge, let's say, for example. And so in the process of being strong, I did the exact opposite of you, and I didn't show any emotion. And if I did have emotion, I did the other myth, which is grieve alone. And so I only would grieve in my room out of the eyes of my children because I didn't want my children to feel bad. Sometimes that being strong means we think we're protecting the other person or we're helping them. And by being strong for my children, I was keeping them away the emotion. And in actuality, I wasn't even showing them how to grieve properly is what ended up happening.
So this myth where I say be strong and be strong for others is they're really implying don't show your emotions because you're operating from the belief that the other person isn't strong enough to handle whatever it is that they're going through.
Or they're going to need you right now. You need to be strong.
Pick yourself up.
Pick yourself up. Listen to this. I was at a home where a gentleman was killed tragically, and within a couple of hours, the little boy was 11 years old, was being told, you need to be strong now. You're the man of the house. And the mom, I was at the house, and she came to me about 3 hours after the death had happened, and she said, I haven't seen him cry in a while. And so I said, well, go talk to him, see what it's about. And she went and talked to him, and that's where he revealed to her that all of the buddies of the dad was coming by telling him, you have to be strong. You're the man of the house. He's 11 years old.
What an incredible pressure that you put on this kid, and what an impression you make on him.
Yes.
That it's not okay to feel your feelings.
Yes.
And so the price that a child like this could now endure is that he has a pivotal moment that's really highlighted that it's not okay to feel your feelings. And so then the mechanism and the machine shuts down.
Yes, absolutely. And think about that same kid 11 years from now. He's 22 years old, and he's constantly trying to be strong. He can't find a job, hasn't figured out college, but he's trying to be strong. And that's where you see sometimes anger comes up, right? I've been told to be strong my whole life, but I can't figure this out.
What I'm thinking about as a father of 2 daughters is, what would it be like if one of my daughters fell in love with this young man and he doesn't know how to be vulnerable with her? He doesn't know how to bring his wall down and to connect. Right. And then if they get married and have kids, he doesn't know how to be vulnerable with his children. He doesn't know how to be sensitive, and he doesn't know how to, show any kind of emotion. So now my grandkids don't know that their dad loves them. Right. Or that their dad even has feelings because he has never been told or taught that it's okay to show that and express that.
Then look at that same young man who has a tragedy in his life, and one of his kids is tragically killed, and he thinks he's supposed to be strong. And now he and his wife are going through this loss together, and she thinks he's not grieving enough, and he thinks she's grieving too much and that she's overplaying it. I mean, it can just add and add and add and go on. I mean, we've just told the story of so many people.
Yeah. For some of the people that are still struggling with the tragedy and the grieving process coming out of the Las Vegas shooting, which has been, a couple months now, right?
October 1st.
And, it's like the rest of the world just moved on.
Yes.
And, they kind of, for some of them, might feel like a ghost left behind, still dealing with it. How do some of them that maybe be listening to the show or just got some clarity that, I get to start being proactive on my own healing process, how do they reach out to someone like you to at least take that first step? How are you? Where are you at?
I'm in Valencia, and I just want to say real quick to everyone from the Las Vegas shooting. I've met with so many of you, and I know that grief doesn't feel like what they're going through, but it was absolutely a loss. So I am here for you, whatever you need. I'm in Valencia. I'm in the Industrial Center. I have an office there. I actually have a class coming up this Wednesday, January 10th. And you can reach me at SharonBrubaker.com or Sharon@SharonBrubaker.com. And my phone number is 661-212-0720. And I'll post it in the Facebook Live today.
And what does an initial either one-on-one setting look like with you, or even a class or a group setting?
So group setting is where we're really holding the space for everybody there that's going through some sort of loss, or we can meet one-on-one. That's something we'll decide after we get together. But what we're going to do Wednesday night is just talk about grief and what grief actually is, and if there is something in your heart that's unfinished.
So it's a space for people. It's a loving, non-judgmental space that's held in that room for people to open up and share whatever is heavy on their heart.
Absolutely.
That they're holding on to. And you don't have to share. Even if you get there and just listen,
you do not
at least
have to
you made
share.
that first step, right?
Most importantly, I try to set a safe place for everybody to feel comfortable that wants to go down that path, and I guide them.
And maybe a one-on-one, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like a lot of one-on-ones probably get sprouted from coming to testing it out, and coming to a group support night, and then they decide they actually see you and fall in love with you, and they go, okay, I trust you now.
I have to do this.
And then they do the one-on-ones.
Right. And it's an 8-week educational program. It's an educational program that I'm teaching, and we do it as a group or one-on-one, and it works really well.
Sounds good.
It's exciting.
Thanks for listening in to the special broadcast called Healing from Loss, How to Move Through Your Grief in a Powerful Way. This is